Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this episode of the podcast, The Hero in the Mirror. This podcast serves as a reminder that heroes aren't that hard to find, and that they're all among us, and more importantly, that you are the hero in your journey. With us today, we have Becca. Becca is the head of marketing and analytics at Microsoft. Proud 4-year North Central athlete, and the last one was a mouthful. If you can help me with that, Becca.
I have an MBA, and I was the graduation speaker from University of Chicago Booth School of Business.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for being on this episode, Becca. I've heard your story a couple times, and when I first heard it, I was like, I have to echo this. I want to share this story because I know that sometimes if you find someone that you can connect to, where their story almost sounds similar, maybe that of heartbreak, maybe that of lack of support, maybe that of being resilient in the face of adversity, through different situations. So I made it happen. We're here and appreciate you being in here.
I'm really grateful to be here, so thank you for coming.
Awesome. So usually with this podcast, we try to tackle the deep challenges that you face, right? You have all these beautiful accolades, kudos on your work at Microsoft, on your MBA, on being an athlete for 4 years at North Central. Shout out to North Central. I actually know a few more athletes there as well. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight. And what sometimes people fail to see or reflect is that hero's journey. Those tough obstacles that you overcame, that you had to overcome to be right now, in the position that you're in. So with that said, what was the biggest challenge that you faced on your hero's journey?
I've had a few, if you don't mind me going through them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll go through what I would really call my journey since essentially graduating college. I knew I was graduating back in 2010, which was during the Great Recession, and I knew I needed to have a job. But I had a finance major from a small school that most people hadn't really heard of. And I would say hiring's probably worse now, but it was really bad back then too. And so I was like, I'm not leaving this place without a job. I will admit I took probably what I would call a spaghetti at the wall approach. And I was just like, job.
Yeah, what is it?
I threw darts.
Throw something at the wall. Something's going to stick.
Something's got to stick, right? Yeah. And I had to have done hundreds of job applications. I got 2 interviews out of all of that. But ultimately, I got one job offer, which is what I really needed. Was not the job I was hoping to get, but I was like, well, hey, this gives me a paycheck and this gives me health insurance, and that's really what I needed. So the job was working as a financial advisor at Edward Jones. And it was paying $12.50 an hour, which is probably around $18, $19 today. Mm-hmm. But the way that you meet your clients at Edward Jones is you actually go to their house and you knock on their doors. And let me tell you, nothing will humble you like that. My very first day of door knocking, it was a high of 9 in Chicago.
High of 9 degrees.
9. Yeah. Oh, that was the warmest of the day. Very cold. And I ended up doing that for a year and a half. At one point, I did get the police called on me. Someone was like, she was trying to break in.
All right.
I knocked on her door. I wasn't trying to break in. But yeah, very, very challenging career. But I was like, okay, you know what? Heads down, I'm doing this because I need to get this experience. This is not going to be my forever job. I'm going to go do something else at some point. While all this is happening, at this point, I had been with my then boyfriend for about 5 years. And he proposed to me at Walt Disney World back in October of 2011. And at that point, we'd been together for 5 years. We had started dating when I started undergrad. He had started med school, so we both finished our educations at the same time. And he had to go out to middle of nowhere, Virginia for his residency. He didn't match into a residency program. So after we got engaged, it was like, well, I don't really love my career. I might as well maybe take the step and go move with him, and maybe we can start our lives, and then I can look for a new job. So I ended up deciding, okay, I'm going to do this. And I quit my job. I sublet my apartment. I donated all my stuff because we didn't need 2 sets of couches and towels and forks and stuff. And I moved out to Virginia. And 10 days after I got there, he was like, hey, I've been cheating on you. I love someone else, and you need to go home. And the woman he cheated on me with, she had met me. She was also a doctor in the hospital. She knew I existed. And they had only met each other like 6 months before. So I was so surprised. I had no idea. I was crushed. And then later that day, I just needed to like not be around. I was driving, going really fast. I ended up getting pulled over, and I got a misdemeanor charge for reckless driving. I just was out of my mind upset. So a really, really terrible 24 hours. And I ended up going back home, and I was sleeping on my grandparents' basement couch. And I was like, all right, time to restart again. So I'm like, I need a job, I need an apartment, and I need health insurance. So the best way to do that, I better start finding a job.
Okay.
And I was like, well, you know what? I have a little bit of experience with this Edward Jones job. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to really get that analyst job I want. And I would say that at least was one of the positives that came out of that. Was I don't know how long I would have stayed at Edward Jones and tried to make it work, but I didn't have a choice now. I didn't have a job. So I ended up getting a financial analyst job at a small company out in Naperville called PMA Financial Network. Pay wasn't great, but I had enough to get an apartment, pay my student loans, pay my car payment. And so I was like, great, restart. I had health insurance. Then I was able to get into therapy and start working through some of the issues that came with, the infidelity and stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool, getting stable. This is great. But about 3 years after being at PMA, I was like, I feel like I'm a little bit smarter than this place. And I didn't feel like my manager was really giving me credit, like the senior management was really giving me credit. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get an MBA. And although I loved my time at North Central, when the job market was really hard, people were not recruiting at North Central. So I was like, I'm going to go to a school that's got prestige, that people actively want to recruit those students. And I was like, I'm going to go to University of Chicago to get my MBA. So I started studying for the GMAT. I had to take it 3 times to get a score that I felt like I could submit to them. Interviewed, wrote my essays, and then I did get in. If you're not familiar with University of Chicago with school business, I know that MBA rankings are probably highly made up and paid and whatever, but it's usually ranked in like the top 10 of schools.
Okay, wow.
So it was a good opportunity for me to like really get the prestige that I had been looking for. So I was like, great, I'm going back to my employer. I'm going to get this fancy degree. You guys are going to promote me for sure. Didn't quite happen like that.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they were just like, that's great. And I was like, okay, well, I'm about to go like $1 bazillion into debt for this. Like, and so then I was like, I've got a new plan. I was always scheming. I'm going to take my job description to my manager, and I'm going to be like, look at what my job description says I'm supposed to be doing, and look at what I actually do. They are not even remotely close. And he was like, you know what? You're right. So we ended up going through my job description. I added a bunch of, stuff I'm doing. And I was like, great, I've backed this guy into a corner. Time for my raise and promotion.
Spot on.
And HR came by and was like, here's sign this job description. And all they did was add that new work to my current job with no title change, no raise change in pay.
Oh, man.
And I was like, hell no. So I didn't sign it. And then I went home and I was like, I am commuting, spending like 3 hours in my car, going to night school. They're not giving me any flexibility because PMA was out in Naperville and University of Chicago is obviously downtown. And I don't think this is making sense anymore. And I kind of went home and I was like, I need to quit my job. I'm like, this is crazy. This whole time I've just been like begging for employment.
And now you're just like,
I'm like,
I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I tried.
Yeah.
I gave you guys a shot. I
Yeah.
made it as clear as day
Yeah.
that I'm doing a lot, that I'm bringing a lot of value. You even recognize that.
Yeah.
And yet you just gave me more responsibilities, the same job title, with the same pay.
Yeah.
It must have been heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. So I realized, I was like, you know what? I think it actually would be a greater risk to my career if I stay in this dead-end job than if I take this risk and try to either find something or go to school full-time and try to make this faster. And I waited out and I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. So I quit. I didn't have anything lined up, but I was like, all right, I'll take 3 classes instead of the 2. And if I can't find something in the next quarter, I'm just going to do this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Got lucky though. I used the Chicago Booth Network, and someone referred me to a senior financial analyst role at Walgreens, which ended up giving me a big pay bump, the like brand recognition I was looking for, and I was like, this is great. I would say at that point, things started to get a little bit better career-wise for me, but it certainly wasn't easy. I was living in Glen Ellen at the time. And then I was taking classes in the Loop, and I was working out in Deerfield. So if you're familiar with the Chicago suburbs, that is a triangle of death. It's horrible.
Just from here to there.
Yeah. And I kid you not, I'd spend on average about 3.5 hours in my car a day, on top of working an 8-hour day. I had night class 2 nights a week, and I was taking really hard classes. I was studying econometrics and statistics, so we had a lot of homework, and it was a ton to balance. It was a very difficult 2.5 years. But I was like, hey, you're used to doing hard things.
Yeah.
So keep focusing, keep going at it. And I did get through it, and so much so that I got selected to be the graduation speaker at Chicago, which was really just an incredible moment for me. And I have to say that as painful as working at Edward Jones and knocking on strangers' doors was, I can't get humiliated to save my life. I'm not scared of public speaking. Okay. I've knocked on like hundreds of people's doors.
Strangers' doors. Literally get closed, doors slammed in your face.
So,
get off my porch.
So I wasn't nervous at all. It was pretty cool. And then positively, while I was at Booth, I was also networking, ready to think about my post-MBA job. And someone knew I wanted to work with big data. She was a friend of mine from the MBA, and she said she's working at Microsoft. They've got a role on her team. She thinks I would be great. She referred me, and my interview was so funny. This is true. I'm interviewing with the hiring manager, and he was like, so looks like you've never worked for big tech. I was like, no. You never worked in digital advertising? No. And I was supposed to be studying the automotive industry. You've never studied automotive. And I was like, no. But
Okay.
I know you guys value diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
And if you hire all the people that have that same background all the time, you're not really getting diversity of thought.
Yeah.
If you bring me in and I have this really unique background where I've sold financial products and I've analyzed the banking industry and I worked at Walgreens as an analyst, you're going to bring in somebody that has innovation, can question why you're doing things, and can help you grow. And 7 years later, I tricked someone because I did get the job.
Good.
I've moved up several times, and now I'm a director and the head of advertiser analytics, and I run a global team at Microsoft. So I've been there for 7 years, and yeah, I feel like it's just...
That recruiter's like, I hit a home run with this one.
Yeah, even though on paper, maybe not. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey of resilience for me, for sure.
Okay. What's you mentioned a lot of great things there, but most importantly, the fact that you stayed motivated and stayed resilient, even in those hard moments where you had to restart, where you said where you were sleeping in your parents' couch, and you're just like, I gotta start over, and having that motivation to even have that conversation with yourself. So how did you stay motivated and resilient through that adversity?
I constantly was thinking about how I have done hard things my whole life. Even going back to college, I ran cross country and track in college. I don't know if you lived in the dorms at all, but it was not very typical to see college students getting up at 5:15 in the morning to go work out. I did that for years, and that I learned discipline there because that was really hard to do. Then I go to Edward Jones and I'm knocking on strangers' doors, and I was like, this is hard, but you know what? It was hard doing sports in school. I can do this. After, the infidelity, I was like, this is really hard. I'm really heartbroken, but I've already done hard things. And so I just kept remembering, like, you have a whole history of knowing that you can push through and do hard things and be better. And one thing that I always realized is after that a chapter would close, I'd either have a learning or like a benefit from it. From sports, I learned discipline. As I mentioned, I got humbled for sure knocking on strangers' doors.
Yeah.
And I have no issue public speaking now. When after the infidelity, I got the job I had been wanting to get. Mm-hmm. So all these things ended up always either teaching me something I needed or leading me to something better that I needed.
Good. Yeah. And through that, I, with that motivation and, the resilience, I often ask if you had any support systems along the way. We were chatting a little bit about this earlier, and I really appreciated your response, and I wanted to kind of have you echo that.
I would say my support systems kind of varied throughout my life, but I honestly ended up doing a lot of it on my own. Yep. I kind of realized, like, okay, in college, my support system was my boyfriend at the time. Well, guess what? He left me for his girlfriend. Yeah. So, not my support system anymore. And I had that happen to me a couple of different times. And I always realized, like, okay, well, who's going to take care of you better than yourself? And so I really ended up kind of leaning on the strength of my own self in order to, like, push myself forward. I definitely have a good group of friends that I stick around, and now I am married, and I do definitely, my husband is a support system. Yeah. But I would say over the years, my main support was myself.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
You yourself and I.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you can do things on your own if you really put your mindset towards it. And you're definitely a beaming icon for of that. It's you can do things. You can do hard things alone.
Yeah.
Now with the success that you've seen through getting your MBA, through getting your being an athlete, getting your role at Microsoft, how has your definition of success? How has that changed over time?
It's funny you should ask this, because I think my least favorite interview question is, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Yeah. Because every single year, the goalpost changed for me. Mm-hmm. sometimes my focus wasn't even necessarily my career, but more so just like what I needed in that moment. So if I go back to 2010 when I was graduating college, it was like my goalpost was be employed. And I wanted to be employed as an analyst. Couldn't quite reach that one at that time.
Yeah.
So, but hey, I got a job that could pay the bills. So that was the first step. By 2011, I'm getting engaged. And now it's like, okay, now do I think about my future and my love life and getting married? By 2012, it was, I need stability. I need a paycheck and an apartment and like to be able to rebuild my life. And so every year the focus was different. By grad school, I was like, okay, I'm in a better place. I want to work with big data. And so then I ended up getting that role. I'm married now. And so making sure that I have a strong marriage is really important to me. We have 2 dogs and a cat, and I really enjoy spending time with them. I love my neighborhood. I love my friends. So I want to have those quality relationships, and I want to get back to my community. So I've been volunteering at Animal Care League in Oak Park. And that's where my focus is right now, is like maybe building connection and relationship. But if you ask me this question in a year,
Yeah.
I might be like, connection, relationship, who? I want this.
Yeah, exactly. The goalposts change, and it's good to also recognize that. Like maybe if you have completed something, or if something needs a change of direction, like it's okay.
Yeah.
Remain fluid and adaptive in life and in your goals, because sometimes you don't know what life is going to throw at you.
Yeah.
A curveball. And I really appreciate this segment where we start talking about bits of advice that you can give to someone struggling in a similar journey, or trying to overcome similar obstacles, whether that's finding love after heartbreak, restarting after you've lost a few things and you're just like, all right, how do I get into this mentality, and also finding the value in yourself. And the interview, I think, was a really great example of that. Like, if you don't see the value, here's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
and you did a great job. You sold him or her on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, bits of advice. If we could maybe break it down into a few different facets, what that might look like.
So one of the pieces of advice I would give is I think about this song from Rascal Flatts called My Wish. Mm-hmm. And they have a lyric in there where it's like, if one door opens to another door closed, I hope you keep on walking till you find the window. And I feel like I approached a lot of things with that mentality, because it was like, okay, this, like for example, my PMA job where they just were not promoting me. This isn't working. So what are my options? Do I stay here? Do I quit? Do I go to school full time? Like I really had to evaluate all my choices. And so I would say keep thinking about, if you're in a tough position, are there ways that you can get out and you can find that open window? And maybe it's not what you thought was going to be the solution. I really never thought in a million years I would like voluntarily quit a job like that. Yeah. If you had told me when I was 22. But I'm so glad I did, because it was too much of a risk not to. And so evaluating all those options helped me understand what was like the right option to do.
Okay. What would you tell to a young lady who's suffered some heartbreak and is maybe, going through therapy?
I did spend time in therapy after, just trying to like process everything, I wanted to think about the mistakes that I had made. I wanted to think about how to approach relationships in the future. I didn't want to assume that everyone was going to be cheating on me. Yeah. And so I would definitely say therapy was really important. I couldn't quite do therapy until I had a job because I couldn't afford it. But hey, eventually I got there. And then I really just wasn't looking for love, to be totally honest. And so then I met this person and they were like, hey, we do hit it off. Like, and I was like, shoot, yeah, you're right. Like, I like you. So I at least had the mentality where I wasn't like, okay, I still have to get married. I still want to do these things. I just was like, okay, well, guess what? I'm going to take care of me. And if that happens, that's great. But honestly, I was doing pretty fine without like a male in my life, and I was pretty happy. So I would actually give advice of like, focus on you.
One of the things that, I've heard a lot as a mental health first aid coach is, you really got to love yourself first. You really got to understand yourself first before you can, love other people or help other people or anything like that. And that's something that I've always kind of taken to heart. And the reason I'm also really, really glad you brought up the therapy is often that has a negative connotation, like going to therapy. Like there's nothing wrong with you talking to a professional and, just being able to also understand, from where you're coming from, get that bit of reflection from that therapist. And one of the reasons I'm echoing that so much is because I'm a mental health first aider, and I have, I've helped a lot of people on the front lines of mental health first aid, and they sound so relieved after making the call.
Yeah.
They're just like, I wasn't going to make this call, but I just pressed the button. I was like, whatever. The fact that, there's no judgment behind, if you're just looking for help, if you're just looking for someone to talk to, if you're looking for a little bit of that progress, use the resources that are available to you. Sometimes it's really easy for us just to feel a real deep emotion, whether it's anger or sadness, and act on it.
Yeah.
But not acting on those emotions, being able to level set, and then think with a clear mind, pays dividends.
Yeah. Pays
dividends on the line. So we've talked a lot about your background, your obstacles, your challenges. Before we talk about, last, bits of insights that you can provide, I almost want to give a little bit of spotlight into your role at Microsoft. Maybe if I can ask, what makes a good leader at Microsoft? What do leaders look for in employees?
When I'm hiring, I really want to find like the non-traditional employee. I want to find somebody that like didn't maybe necessarily go to the prestigious school. I want to find somebody that has that resilience built up and knows how to push through challenges and can get creative. And it's funny because we have a mutual connection, this guy, Chris Vasquez, who works for me. And I ended up meeting him at Orange Theory. He wasn't even looking for a job, and
he was just looking for a workout.
Yeah, exactly. But he had this great background, really interesting. And I was like, this guy has grit. This guy is smart. This is the right call. And so I always look for that. And then as far as the leadership goes, I feel like the best leaders work for their team. I just almost want you to tell me what you need and let me enable it. Mm-hmm. I want to help support you and help you grow. And one thing I try to do too is I really want to keep everybody's career goals in mind. I want people to have experiences that are valuable to them. Today I manage analytical leads. Tomorrow, what do you want to do with those skills? You're probably not going to retire as an analytical lead. Let's be realistic. Yeah. So let's set you up for the thing that's right for you next. I'll echo what I said earlier in that I think everybody can do hard things. And when it gets a little bit challenging, trust yourself. Go back to those hard moments and remember the choices you made and how you pushed through it. And keep giving yourself credit for doing those hard things, because that's probably not going to be the last time a challenge comes up. And you're going to lean back on those memories and know, okay, I've done this before. I have a guidebook and I can do it again.
Good. Yeah. Give yourself credit.
Yes.
I think that's one thing that I try to instill within this podcast is, as you're brushing your teeth, as you're getting ready for your day, take 2 minutes. Just look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is my hero's journey. I'm the hero in here. These are the things that I've accomplished, and I'm ready to go out and conquer my day.
Yeah.
So give yourself more credit, right? Than you deserve at the end of the day, because you've done hard things. You've overcome. You're batting 1,000%. If you're watching this podcast, all those hard days that you thought would get to you, they did it, and you've made it this far. Well, Becca, it's been a pleasure to have you here on this podcast. I enjoyed your wonderful story of resilience and strength and overcoming adversity, and I hope this reaches the audience and motivates them to continue to tackle their challenges head on, because life is going to keep throwing some things at you.
Yeah.
And keep throwing stuff back.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Becca. All right, everyone, if you like this podcast episode, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. It allows me to bring more speakers like Becca on here to share their stories. With that said, I'll catch you all on the next episode of The Hero in the Mirror. Cheers.